Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/entitled people. In today's episode, my mom asks entitled mother to let go of my hair, refused and got her life ruined. Another I wanted this house EP. Entitled customer does not understand that closed means closed. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. My mom asks entitled mother to let go of my hair, refused and got her life ruined. When I was a kid, I never cut my hair, no matter what I never cut my hair, so I had very long pretty dirty blonde hair. And as a kid a lot of people would ask to touch it. And I was fine with it, as long as they had my permission. So, when I was 6, my mom took me to a grocery store to buy some things for dinner that night. We got to the store and my mom got the stuff she needed, but was missing the bread from the other side of the store. She sent me to go get it since I was fast and small. When I got to the bread, I picked out the brand we would usually buy, and at the time I really liked baguettes and other types of breads. So when I saw the baguettes, I totally forgot that my mom was waiting for me and grabbed a loaf and headed back to my mom. So when I was heading back to my mom from the bread aisle, I felt someone pull on my hair, and not gently, no, they yanked it. They pulled so hard I thought my hair was going to come out. And I cried so hard my mom heard me across the store. It turns out it was a kid about my age who wanted to touch my hair, so his mom, and I say his 40-year-old mother, pulled my hair so her friggin' kid could touch it. My mom rushed over and told the lady to let go of me. This is basically how the conversation went. EM equals entitled mom. M equals my mom. Me equals me, duh. M, let my daughter go. EM, my child just wanted to touch her hair, she has very pretty hair. Me, she pulled on my hair, it hurts. M, you could have just asked. You can't just pull kids' hair, I can call the police for assault. EM, you are harassing me, all I did was let my son touch her hair. I can call the police on you for harassing me and my child. M, firstly, I am not harassing you, you assaulted my child. And secondly, you can call the police. You will only be making things worse for yourself. As it turns out, the entitled mom called the police and they took both our statements. The entitled mother had given an over-exaggerated and dramatic report, telling the police, as we would find out later, that I had given consent for her kid to touch my hair and my mom had come out of nowhere and started harassing the entitled mother. My mother had given the police the actual report from her side. I had been asked to give a report, but I was too scared and tired from the experience to say much. They checked the security footage and saw what actually happened. I don't remember the next part, so bear with me here. My mom decided to press charges and sued the entitled mom for assault, and she was sent to jail for 6 months and fined for providing a false police report as the cherry on top. Entitled parents always think they are right. Lucky the law sorted her out. It's always funny how often they lie that they did things properly, like in this case asking permission to touch Opie's hair. They told the police they received permission when they didn't, implying they knew the right way to go about this interaction but chose not to. That's always baffled me. Oh my gosh, I wanna hug little you. What a horrible woman. Icker. She must have been mean, I feel so bad for Opie. The best part is the EM was the one who called the police on herself. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I think a lot of entitled people are deluded and really think somehow they are the wronged party. I grew up in Japan, and I had waist-length golden blonde hair at the time. 9 years old. People would always come up and touch without permission. My sister actually started wearing her hair stuffed under a beanie. I grew up in the Middle East with long white blonde hair. Same situation, and it got worse when we traveled. Really skeptical that the mom was sent to jail for 6 months unless this wasn't her first offense, and even then, what exactly would the charges be? Government paying for someone to be in jail for 6 months over an incident like this is just weird. I'm pretty sure the 6 months was for a false police report. So you think jail time for an entirely unprovoked assault on a minor is excessive? I don't remember the next part, so bear with me here. My mom decided to press charges and sued the entitled mom for assault, and she was sent to jail for 6 months and fined for providing a false police report as the cherry on top. Your mom can press charges, but then the state takes it from there, which was why the woman was sent to jail and fined. Your mom could also have sued in civil court and received a monetary settlement. I would have chosen the latter, since you don't state she did that and seem to conflate sued and pressed charges even though they have different meanings. To go to jail for something like that would mean the woman had a criminal history, as they usually don't jail first offenders in most jurisdictions. She assaulted a minor. That's an automatic jail sentence unless you are expressly repentant. Not so much life-ruining, but just getting what she asked for. I hope you are okay now. Depending on where you live, that could be on a public record. Good luck getting a job after explaining you got half a year for assaulting a child. Having a police record can make normal things really hard. I wore my hair in a long thick braid down my back for most of my adult/teen years. Usually to my waist. People would come up behind me and yank on my braid like a bell pull. Arg, one woman I worked at did it constantly. These are the same people who touch pregnant women's bellies without permission. So inconsiderate and annoying. That is really annoying. Fortunately, no stranger ever did that to me, but one boyfriend did it regularly. What's worse, he knew I suffer from chronic migraines. Another I wanted this house EP. Almost 30 years ago, my dad retired from the army. That's important to the story, and we all moved from the barracks to entirely different county. Not overly fun for me or my sister, because she just joined secondary school and didn't want to leave her friends behind, and I just didn't want to move again. If you're not familiar with the British Army, soldiers used to get posted places, invariably places like Germany, Switzerland, Cyprus, etc. It was 50/50ths of if the whole family was posted with them, depending on how long they were away for. By the time I was 8, we'd already moved at least 4 times. That I can remember. Anyway, the Ministry of Defense used to have old soldiers' quarters in places, and when they barracks in the areas no longer needed them, retired soldiers and families would get first dibs on the houses. Mom and Dad found this house and we set about packing up, again, and moving, again. But this time for good. Yay! About 6 months after we'd moved it, we'd almost made it our own and had some family friends over for dinner. We're all in the dining room, like an actual room, separate from the kitchen and living room? I know, I was amazed. I'd never seen one, sitting to eat, and I mean all of us. Grandparents, 2 cars, 3 sets of friends, 3 cars, us, 1 car, so it's very obvious from the outside that the house is not empty and a lot of people are there. Dad looks up from eating and his jaw drops. There is a woman just wandering around the garden. She's sniffing the flowers, looking in windows, and generally behaving as if the house was a horse for sale, checking its metaphorical teeth. It wasn't even as if she could have just walked down the side of the house and to the back garden. She would have had to unlock and open 3 gates. Dad, goes out, with a couple of his mates, all ex-army and rugby types, big blokes, hard to miss. G and B, and this woman, W, glances at them, then continues poking about the garden and trying to get out of the shed. D, what do you think you're doing? W, I'm looking at the garden. Bold as brass. G and B, we see that. Why? D, what are you doing here? This is my house. Get off my property. Who do you think you are? W, shrugs. My son was going to buy this house. I want this house. I wanted to see what I could do with the garden when he buys it. D, stares. WTF do you mean, when he buys it? It's not for sale. I live here. W, no you don't, my son wanted to buy this house. G and B, mate, we're gonna go check on the families and call the police, you okay with her? D, yeah, make sure the kids stay inside. To the woman, get the hell off my property. W, it's not yours, it's mine, I live here. By this point, we've opened the window to get a proper listen, and Mom, M, has lost her shit. Proper mama bear reaction, her 2 babies are inside, along with 6 other kids that she's known their whole lives. She flies out the door. M, get the hell off my property. Get away from my husband, get away from here. D, calm down love, it's okay, go inside, I'll get rid of her. W, with 0 sense of self-preservation. Who do you think you are? This is my house, get away from me, you crazy fat b****. Dad has to grab Mom on the way past before she ends this woman. W, I don't want some unhinged woman in my house. Get off my property. Thankfully, police arrive and escort the woman off the property, telling Dad to invest in locks for the gates. Dad's turn to lose his shit. He explains, loudly, at length, to police that this woman had to unlock a few gates and shows them how the woman got in. As they're getting her to the car, she declared that she'll get us out of her house, it's her son's house, she lives here, she'll get us out. Dad tells police he's pressing charges. Woman's tone changes, suddenly it's not her son's house at all, she didn't mean any of it, she's very sorry, she can't be charged. I don't know what came of it in the end, Mom and Dad wouldn't tell us, but I still remember trying to work out if she was crazy or what, but either way, we still live in the house. And we all still love it. It's got a dining room. I understand the frustration of moving so many times. We're not in the military and I can't count the number of times we moved. I went to 3 schools for 6th grade. Glad you finally got a real house. We were poor, capital P was intentional. Single mom, doing her best. When we were kids, we never understood why we moved so often, at least once a year, sometimes 2 to 3 times. Mom stayed one step ahead of foreclosure by selling/buying so often. Never got much equity until I was older and she got to stay in one place for a string of years. Now that I'm older, I'm impressed that she always managed to keep a roof over our heads and sneakers on our feet. This woman sounded legitimately like Alzheimer's patients I've had who were dead convinced the hospital was their house and I was intruding. It sounds more like a mental health issue than an entitled woman. Did her son of her maybe used to live there? She changed her tune pretty sharpish when charges were being pressed. She was a chancer, it just didn't go her way. This is the first thing I thought too. Might be delusional more than entitled. Hate to think if her son is active. What shame and hell for him because of his mother's actions. As far as I am aware, spoke to the rents about it a few years ago, he was never active, he just wanted the house, but they were basically first come first served to ex-military only. But, that was from asking them a few years ago, so I don't know the entire full details. My mother's father worked most of his life for a railroad. She told me that when she was 21 she had lived in 21 places. Some of those places were in D.C. as a young adult or other places with cousins. I don't know the whole story, but at one point Grandpa was working up in Niagara without his family and was planning on having them move up there with him. For some reason Grandma decided to burn all the furniture just before going there when without any advance notice Grandpa showed up with several fellow workers. And Grandma had to feed them and find a place for them to sleep. I never learned what happened next, but I bet he had a lot of making up to do. Made my day. They always change when consequences drop. I'm just silly old lady, wait what? Entitled customer does not understand that closed means closed. I used to work for a pet store in Evanston. Even on holidays when we were closed, someone would have to come in the morning and someone else would have to come in the evenings to feed the animals, clean the cages, change litter pans and make sure everybody was healthy and happy. One Thanksgiving day, a father just couldn't understand the closed sign. He kept banging on the door and demanding to be let in with his children so that they could just look around while his wife was at home preparing their meal. I tried in vain to explain to him that I was trying to take care of the animals so that I could then get home with my family for Thanksgiving dinner. I repeatedly told him that the store was closed to customers. He still kept banging on the door and demanding that I let him in. I suggested to him that maybe he should go see if they would let him in at Marshall Fields so that he could just look around while they waited for his wife to finish cooking. He thought that that was absurd. He couldn't see the absurdity in what he was doing, so finally I told him if he did not step away from the door that I was going to call the police. He then proceeded to unload a barrage of swear words. He stopped only when he saw me go to the phone behind the counter. I love the people that bang on the doors after we close on Christmas Eve because they just need a last-minute thing. Even better are the ones who whine that it's just not fair that stores force their employees to work on holidays. The best job I ever had was at a dollar store, not because the job was great, it was because the people I worked with were amazing. My manager would lock the door 5 minutes to closing on Christmas Eve and happily tell off anyone who lagged behind in the store or knocked on the door after we were closed. New build department store was due to open on Saturday. Huge red signs announcing this. On Thursday we were walking past and Mild made a beeline for the doors and started to push it, then rattle the frames, while waving at the people moving rails, etc. Mill, people are in there. DH, yes, they are setting up for Saturday. They work there. Mill, so the shop is open. Why won't they let me in? We had to lure her away with the offer of morning coffee, so that they could just look around. They weren't even potential customers, you were just the easy substitute for a visit to the zoo. I remember in my early 20s my boyfriend at the time was working at Blockbuster. He was on the closing shift and it was just him and one other person closing. I arrived to pick him up a little ahead of time and was waiting in the parking lot, full view of the front of the store. It was past closing hours and a man walks up with his young son and starts trying to open the door. Hours are clearly posted on the door. I can see my boyfriend's coworker gesture, they were closed, but the man kept aggressively trying to open the door and pounding on the window to let him in. They have a drop box, so I'm not sure why he was getting so upset about it. Unless he thought he was still going to be able to rent something after turning in the movie. I was getting pissed just watching this unfold and considered telling him if he didn't stop I would call the cops. What made me more mad was seeing his son start to emulate his dad's behavior. He started pounding too and I could see them both yelling, and the dad then proceeded to bend and try to break the DVD he had in half and threw it on the ground. The child then stomped on it and they both left. All I could think is, wow, that man is a moron, because they have his info on file for that rental and will probably charge him more now since he destroyed Blockbuster property in his childish tantrum. The other thing I thought was what a horrible example he set for his son. Should have ignored him after telling him the first time. Business hours are just a suggestion. I worked in the deli department of a large grocery store. The store hours at that time were 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Opening crew had to be there by 7:30. There would already be customers waiting at the door. Some would try to come in with the delivery people. Sometimes, someone would come in through the employees-only entrance. Every once in a while someone would try to give me a list so I could have the order ready when we finally opened. When it was very cold, or very hot, or raining, they complained that the weather was awful and we should let them in to get shelter. When 8 a.m. finally rolled around, we'd hear the stampede heading to the deli counter. People would start shouting orders. We'd ignore them. Now serving number 1 in the deli department. But I was here first. Please take a number, like the big sign says. I don't understand how someone can reach adulthood and not understand the definition of closed. Oh, they understand it. They just don't think it applies to them. I literally put up a sign that says closed for lunch with our return time, and I always get people trying to open the clearly locked door and then getting mad when it's locked. Like hello, read the sign? As I said in another post recently, sadly, reading is a lost art. I work at a cell phone carrier store, and the amount of people who get angry if I am working alone and close to use the restroom, or heaven forbid, get a chance to eat something is insane. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.